about this being a large group. You're not alone, and we will get through this. Awesome. So we've got a bit to cover. We've only got a half an hour. We are overwhelmed and so grateful for everyone making time for this today. We did not expect to get almost 70 people registered for our first welcome back. So thanks everyone for making the time. We are going to talk a little bit about using Tableau to do deposit analysis and just some next steps on getting the credit union Tableau user group up and running again, and what you can expect from us as far as regularly scheduled meetings and content going forward. Go to the next one. Great. So today we're going to well, introduce who we've got here. We'll talk a little bit about the war for deposits. Amy's going to show you how to build a share distribution Pareto chart. We're going to have a little bit of open discussion about how you're managing deposits today. We'll talk about those goals, and then we have time for Q&A. There is a Q&A feature in the chat as well. Feel free to use that, or use the general chat, or send a DM if you're more comfortable with that at any point through. So on the call today, we have myself, I'm Jessica Tamapat. I came from a credit union. I was a credit union leading a BI team for almost 11 years. Now on the architecture. Architecture is data warehousing as well as business advisory services. We also have Amy Elliott with us. She's our visualization wizard. I know that's not what her title says, but that is how we refer to her. And we have Devin, who leads up our marketing team. And as promised, we're going to talk about the war for deposits. So we'll share these slides after too, so you can have this article to reference. I'm sure it's not a shock to any of you that the Fed rates have gone up a ton. Everyone's dealing with a lot of low interest loans that were put on the books during the pandemic. So now we're feeling a bit of a squeeze in the credit union space as far as how do we still maintain margins and serve members with the rates that they're expecting on their deposits, as well as the rates they're expecting on their loans, as these things are tightening. And as people are moving out of the pandemic environment, there's concerns about delinquencies, less loan prepayments. We're seeing the credit cards and home equity, all the revolving lines going up. So it's creating some challenges around deposits, leading to the question of what do we do with about that? How do we get more deposits, and how do we get to know our membership to deepen those relationships so that we can make sure we're not losing valuable members because they want to go open an online savings account at a higher rate, making them understand the value. So figuring out who those members are that are your high depositors is something that we have leveraged Tableau to get a view into. And I'll let Amy get to it. If anyone has questions about the beginning also, of course, feel free to throw them in the Q&A or come off mute.
Right. Sorry. Sorry, I got a call in the middle of that, but we're ready for this, right?
Your audio's coming choppy for me. Devin or Hannah, can you hear Amy?
Choppy for me too.
Any better now?
A little
Nope.
choppy still.
Might be good just to rejoin real quick, Amy.
Yeah, I'll do the first one while you get rejoined, Amy. So the Pareto principle, which is the basis for the chart, explains that in most situations, there's kind of a statistical phenomenon where you end up having 80% of something and is responsible for 20% of your outcomes. So, you know, when you're making just widgets, you can expect that 80% of your customers, or excuse me, 20% of your customers will be responsible for 80% of your profit. So, Amy, you want to try?
Yeah, I'm trying without headphones. Is that better?
Okay, go.
Yeah. All right. Sorry,
You just have to reshare your screen. Wouldn't be a
You're a
great
little-
virtual meeting if we didn't have some technical challenges. You might want to come a tiny bit closer to them. You're fairly faint.
Yeah.
No, great.
Okay. Well, okay. So the Pareto principle, 80% of consequences come from 20% of causes. We're going to explore this with seeing how much of your deposit portfolio is kind of contributed to by your key members. That's where this is all going to come together. So we're talking about some kind of visualization principles in general, and we're going to get into some nitty gritty Tableau development, and then kind of come back up to the credit union conversation as we go. So a Pareto chart, if you're not familiar with it, is a type of chart that contains both bars and a line graph. So just like this example on the right, this is from Wikipedia, where individual values are represented in descending order by bars, and the cumulative total is represented in the line. So the two of them together help you understand your distribution and what kind of key factors play into the majority of your outcomes. So the left vertical axis is the frequency of occurrence, but it can alternately represent a different unit of measure. In this case, we're going to be looking at the cumulative percent of total portfolio. And the right vertical axis is the cumulative percentage of total number of occurrences. So it's kind of a funny chart, but we'll dive into it a little bit more in our example. So here's the share distribution and Pareto chart that we're going to build. I'm going to go into this, but it's some of the key questions it's answering are: how is the total share balance distributed across our member base? How risky is our portfolio, kind of broken into different account types? So we'll go right into it. This is one of the dashboards that we've created to help answer kind of some of the questions on the war on deposits. So here's our Pareto chart here that we'll be rebuilding. I'll zoom in a little. And it's showing our bars here are each individual member. This is dummy data. And how it contributes to the total. They get small really fast. You'll see that these top members really take a lot of the volume of the share portfolio. And then we have a running sum here, percent of total of the cumulatively. So if you were to stack up all these bars and add them up, what that is. So in the tooltip, you'll see what that means, that 10% of members for this dummy credit union holds 90% of the total share balance. So that's kind of similar to the numbers that we're seeing in real production data as well. The 80-20 rule is kind of more what you're shooting for, is having 80% of your share balance in 20% of your members, and the more to the left it goes, kind of the riskier it goes. So we have that broken out by account type and different kind of levels of your share hierarchy here. If I want to drill up to kind of a grouping that might be a little bit more familiar names to people, we can look at that. It looks like checking is kind of a big volume. When I hover, it shows what the rate is compared to the current balance. So as the weighted average rate increases for your CD portfolio, so does the share balance, because maybe people are investing more. So if we click on this, we'll be able to see that Pareto for just CDs and IRAs. So this, you can see that the graph on the left, the Pareto chart updated, and this is a way less risky portfolio, the CD portfolio for the credit union, because here we're seeing at about 20% of members, it's only 75% of the total share balance. So that's a less risky portfolio. If we look at your savings accounts, we'll see that that's one of the riskiest groups. And so when we get to 20% of members, 99.8% of the share balance is held in those members. So that would be really risky because you have these members, a lot of your share portfolio, savings portfolio is kind of invested in those members. So that's kind of the crux of the analysis and the questions that it's answering. Now we can go into building a Pareto chart, which hopefully could be useful to some people. So we're looking at just CDs in this example. So that was the less risky portfolio. I have a filter on here for only CDs and IRAs. And the chart on the left, just so we can keep referencing it if we need to. So you'll see that the y-axis is the cumulative percent of share balance, and the x-axis is the cumulative number of members. But you need to know somewhere in here where it is broken out by membership. So that's kind of a clue to some of how this is built. So we'll start by just doing a simple chart of the bars. So the share balance. And then, so our total share balance for the credit union is 983 million. And then we'll break that out by the social security number, which is kind of the individual member. You'll see that there are a lot of them. So we have 6,090 marks here. That's the number of members that have CD accounts. They are really squished. The bigger ones you'll see here. I always like to put a real name to the social security hash, which is not a very friendly thing to see. So you'll see a big bar here. That's Deborah Lippim, who has $9 million invested in CDs. One of the things when we were looking at the initial definitions is that they need to be sorted in descending order. So we're going to look at our SSN hash sorted by field, descending order by share balance. All right, so now we'll see those blues rise to the top. There's Deborah at the top with the highest share balances. So this in general is your share balance broken out by member, but it's not too helpful of a chart on its own. So we're going to add the SSN hash, account distinct SSN hash. So this is going to get us our cumulative number of members. So I'm right clicking and dragging to columns. The right click and drag means that you can tell it how it aggregates instead of having it just add all of your SSN hashes. So saves a step. So count distinct SSN hash is how we're going to do this. So there's only one. That's not an interesting chart because every SSN hash just has one distinct value of it. And so in order to get the cumulative percent of share balance, we're going to need table calculations. So anybody familiar with table calculations might find some of this familiar. We need a cumulative percent of total. So that's a little bit tricky because we need a percent of total, which is in our list here, but we also need it to be cumulative. So it has to be kind of a 2 layers of the table calculation. So what we're going to do is do a running sum, which will get us our cumulative part. And then we'll add a secondary calculation for making it a percent of total. So it's a little bit complicated as far as table calcs go. So we want it because there's no table across, right? We don't have SSN hash as our header. We're going to have it compute using the SSN hash itself. All right, and now it's starting to look like a curve. It's just not the concave curve we're looking for. So we'll add a secondary calculation here and do percent of total, cumulative percent of total. And we'll do the same thing, specific dimensions on SSN hash. All right, so that is part of it. Now we're going to need the share balance to be cumulative to get that to be the cumulative percent of total. So both ways we're going to need to duplicate what we just did on the counting SSN hash on the share current balance. So add a table calculation, running total on SSN hash with a secondary on a percent of total on SSN hash. So there you go. That's our Pareto distribution. So once you kind of get the hang of it, it's the same table calcs both ways. It's just kind of getting your head around the meaning of those charts. So that is, I like to do that as an area, and I make that our brand colors with a border. And then the second step of the Pareto is adding bars. So we'll add this to our row shelf as well, just the share current balance. We'll make it a bar chart. I'm going to make it a dual axis so that they'll show up on the same axis. So I right click on the top and say dual axis. All right. I don't like these measure names and measure values. Okay. And so now I'm going to get my gray bars to match over here. Get rid of this opacity. Pick a nice gray and then make them really small because we have a lot of members here that we need to fit in. So there we go. There's our Pareto distribution. A few extra things that we could add. In ours, we have the Pareto bands to compare to. So we would add a reference line on the x-axis, make it a constant at 0.1. So that's your 10% line. And then we added a 20% as well, because we found a lot of people, while it is the 80-20 rule, a lot of portfolios were kind of ending up in the 10% band as well. And then add one for the 80 on the side. So add a reference line. Over here, when you click the down here, you either have to make a parameter or choose one of your metrics. Or you can come over here and say constant. I didn't realize that for a long time, that you can actually make a constant instead of just setting a parameter every time. And there we go. So then we just did a little bit of formatting in our final one to rename the axes to be clearer. Cumulative percent of share balance is the blue curve. And then the share balance is the gray bars, and cumulative percent of members. And then our tooltip really is what helps people understand what the chart is telling them. So 9% of members hold 51.8% of total share balance. That's kind of the biggest business question that this gets at. So
I think that's really cool how you built that, Amy, and that just like gave me a question too, which is like, how does the business use this? So it's really cool to like see this analysis, but what can you do with this information once you have it? Jess, maybe you could talk to us about that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So I think, I mean, Amy, thank you for being able to do that on the fly. You never cease to amaze. A natural kind of next question from having a dashboard is, what do you do with the data? So what you might consider doing is managing the relationships with those really high depositors. When Amy showed that savings account where it was very, very small amount of folks were 99% of your deposits, if that particular type of share is a large part of your portfolio, then if any of those members leave, you are facing potentially a big risk. So you might want to have your branch managers or your relationship managers reach out and just provide better service, see what kind of products they have more conversations. So Amy brought up this other part of our dashboard where we can put some of that contact information to be able to have you take that next step and deepen those relationships and make sure that you can reduce that risk. So, which actually gets us into the next slide, Amy, if you don't mind jumping to that, which is we wanted to open this up And this, kind of goes to what we were hoping for this user group going forward, is we wanted to talk to other credit unions. How are you using Tableau to figure out who your high depositors are? What's your strategy to retain them? What are you doing proactively? Anything else? You're very welcome to come off mute to answer any of those questions or throw them in the Q&A. We want to at least give a couple of minutes here to chat about how this resonated with your.
And that's
Okay.
that's fine too. If no one, yeah, no one has anything today, totally not expecting it. We'd love to, get more people to share and chat, when you're ready. But we do have a couple cool questions that, we can go through with our prompts, I believe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, oh, go ahead.
So I was just going to share. I was really excited to see what you presented, Amy, because this is something that our senior management has been asking about quite a bit, as I'm sure everyone else has. We did some analysis on our product types as well to see where the money was going to and coming from as well, and the movement within shares over the like a 3 month period to see where it was moving within our shares as well, if it was moving from money markets to CDs or vice versa, and to see where it was going when it was leaving the organization as well.
That's great.
We-
Thanks for.
We got similar questions from our senior leadership about the products that most people are using. So they're having us use Tableau to do kind of a deep dive on which products are the most popular with high depositors, with not high depositors. If there are things that we can do to be changing the products that we offer to attract more of those high depositor members.
Awesome. Thank you both for sharing and helping us break the ice. And we have something from Carrie in the chat as well. Love learning about the chart and how it's used. Really interesting concept. That's really excellent that it resonated with. So we have a couple of polls just to, after we go over some of our goals and logistics going forward. So what you can expect from us at leading this group is to have regular meetings. We're anticipating them being quarterly. So our next one is actually going to be November 14th, and we'll have that set up shortly. We really want it to be user driven. Your use cases and how you want to use them in Tableau or ways that we can help with that is really what this group exists for the community to collaborate together. And we want to make sure that what we're going over is relevant to the current challenges that you're having. So with that, we can go on to the polls about what we want to focus on next time. Oh, and first, so I don't know if anyone has not used Menti before, but it's just an interactive survey tool. So right in your in a browser tab, you can go to menti.com and just type in that code, and hoping to just gather some information about what brought you here and what you're looking for going. Awesome. Well, while you're filling all that out, if anyone is interested in presenting, feel free to email Devin or go ahead and DM him right in the chat here. We're very glad to have people present their use cases. We're happy to collaborate with you too if you just want to talk about a small piece, and we can help fill in the rest of it as well. Cool. This. Right, we'll give it another like 30 seconds, and we'll keep capturing that. Oh yeah, Devin threw his email in the chat, November 14th. If anyone's interested in sharing anything or have specific suggestions, please don't hesitate to send them over to us. Awesome. So looks like a lot of the group is really interested in learning about Tableau features, tips, and tricks, which luckily that's what we did today. And hopefully we were talking about trends that were relevant to you as well. So we definitely like to have it more interactive with other credit union users. So we'll look to incorporate that more in the future. And thanks. All right, you want to go on to the next one? So this one should be a free answer, just what topics are top of mind for you for future Tableau user group, credit union user group meetups. Can be economic things that you want us to try and figure out how to address with Tableau. Oh, some good stuff. All right. Sales performance, member acquisition, product penetration. Great. And if they're, oh, great. Those should keep as they come up. Excellent. Please feel free to keep sending those in, and also to either use our the group posting or to email us directly. So we will save all these responses to be able to help drive our content going forward. These are some great ones. Awesome. So our last, I think, slide is just a save the date for November 14th. That'll be our next CUTUG meeting. And if there is anyone that is interested in participating, please don't hesitate to reach out. We'll also be, architecture will be doing another webinar on understanding members through data. That's not the CUTUG, but everyone is welcome to attend. We'll have that information in a follow-up as well. That'll be on September 7th. So we really can't thank everyone enough for showing up today and making our first group a success. I think you will be getting a follow-up survey after as well. So please share your feedback there and send us any questions that you come up with. And that's great. We have about a minute and a half for other Q&A or questions people might have. All right. Well, we appreciate the participation. I don't see any questions in the Q&A out there. Devin or Amy, anything you want to add?
No, I think that's all set. Amy, thanks for showing us how to build that chart in Tableau. Jess, thanks for hosting for us, and we will see you guys on November 14th.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks all. Bye.